3 seconds. That's exactly how long it took for my stepsister's $1 million wedding to turn into the most humiliating night of her life, and I didn't even have to say a single word. My name is Donna Lehman. I'm 34 years old and I'm a trauma nurse. I spent my days in scrubs, running on caffeine, and holding the hands of strangers on what is often the worst day of their lives. It's not a glamorous life, but it's my life, and I am deeply proud of it. Growing up, my life was a stark contrast to my stepsister, Chloe's. When my father passed away, my mother remarried a wealthy real estate developer. Suddenly, we were thrust into a world of country clubs, designer brands, and private schools. For Chloe, my new stepsister, this was just Tuesday. She was the golden child, obsessed with status, social media followers, and making sure everyone knew exactly how much her outfit cost. To her, success was measured in dollar signs and appearances. I never fit into that world. While Chloe was off to luxury European vacations, I was working double shifts to put myself through nursing school. I never complained. Helping people gave my life a purpose that money simply couldn't buy. But Chloe, she always looked down on me. She treated me like an embarrassing, distant relative who didn't get the memo on how to be elite. Last month, I was invited to Chloe's wedding. And when I say wedding, I mean a highly produced, over-the-top spectacle designed purely for social media. It was held at one of the most exclusive venues in the state. Crystal chandeliers, walls of imported white roses, and guests dripping in diamonds. I wore a simple, elegant navy blue dress. I didn't want attention. I just wanted to sit in the back, eat my dinner, and go home. But Chloe, being Chloe, always needed a foil to make herself shine brighter. Halfway through the reception, the clinking of glasses filled the room. Chloe stood up in her custom-designed white gown, a microphone in hand, ready to give her toast. She spoke about her new husband, Julian, a successful investment banker from a highly influential family. She spoke about their upcoming honeymoon in the Maldives. And then, for some inexplicable reason, her eyes locked onto me, sitting quietly at a corner table. A smirk crept across her face, the kind of smirk I had seen 1,000 times growing up. The one right before she delivered a punchline at someone else's expense. "I'm so glad my lovely family could be here," Chloe said into the mic, her voice echoing through the massive hall. She pointed right at me. "Donna Lehman, everyone. Give her a hand. You know, she's just a nurse. She spends her whole life cleaning up after sick people in boring hospitals. I honestly didn't think she owned anything besides those cheap blue scrubs. But look at her. She actually cleaned up nicely for once." A scattered, awkward chuckle rippled through the room. My stomach tightened. The familiar wave of embarrassment washed over me, but I kept my face entirely neutral. I just smiled politely. I learned a long time ago that reacting to people like Chloe only gives them the satisfaction they crave. The room grew quiet as people tried to move past the awkwardness. But then, something completely unexpected happened. At the main VIP table, Julian's father, Arthur, a billionaire CEO and the patriarch of the groom's family, slowly placed his fork down. He was a formidable older man with silver hair and piercing eyes. Ever since Chloe had called my name, Arthur had frozen. He wasn't laughing. He was staring directly at me. At first, I thought he was just observing the awkward situation, but his gaze was intense, searching like he was trying to solve a puzzle. He leaned over to his son, Julian, and whispered something. Julian looked confused, then looked at me. Arthur suddenly pushed his chair back and stood up. The room, which had just started to buzz with conversation again, went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. When a man like Arthur stands up, people pay attention. He didn't grab a microphone. He simply walked away from his table and made his way across the grand ballroom, straight toward me. The entire wedding party watched in breathless silence. Chloe's smile completely vanished, replaced with a look of sheer panic. Did her new father-in-law did her joke offend her new father-in-law? Arthur stopped about 3 feet away from my table. He looked at me, his eyes welling up with tears. For a man known for his ruthless business composure, his voice trembled when he spoke.
"Donna?" he asked quietly. "Donna Lehman?"
I stood up, feeling the weight of 400 pairs of eyes on me. Yes, sir, that's me. He took a shaky breath. 4 years ago, during the massive blizzard on Interstate 95, the pileup, were you there? My heart stopped. The memory hit me like a freight train. Yes, 4 years ago, I was stuck in a horrific 50-car pileup during a freak winter storm. The roads were completely gridlocked. Ambulances couldn't get through. Yes, I answered softly. Arthur closed his eyes, and a single tear rolled down his cheek. He turned to face the entire room, his voice suddenly booming with absolute authority. 3 years ago, Arthur announced to the dead silent ballroom, I was trapped in a crushed vehicle in freezing temperatures. A piece of shrapnel had severed an artery in my leg. I was bleeding out. The paramedics were hours away because of the snow. I was dying. He turned back to look at me and then pointed at me, mirroring Chloe's earlier gesture, but this time with profound reverence. This woman, Arthur said, his voice echoing, climbed into the wreckage of my car. She didn't have equipment. She didn't have a hospital. She used her bare hands and a torn shirt to hold pressure on my artery for 3.5 hours in freezing temperatures. She talked to me. She kept me awake. When I told her to let me go, she refused. She stayed by my side until the medevac choppers finally arrived. The silence in the room was deafening. You could literally hear people holding their breath. Arthur turned his gaze directly toward Chloe, who was now standing at the head table, pale as a ghost, looking like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. You call her just a nurse? Arthur's voice was sharp, cutting through the room like a knife. You mock her for taking care of sick people? Let me tell you something, Chloe. If it wasn't for this low-level nurse, my son would not have a father sitting at his wedding today. The wealth, the status, the expensive dresses in this room, none of it means a damn thing when you are taking your last breath. The only thing that matters is someone like Donna. Chloe was speechless. Her jaw literally dropped. The guests who had awkwardly chuckled at her joke moments ago were now looking at her with absolute disgust. The older women were shaking their heads. The illusion of her perfection was shattered. Arthur turned back to me, took both of my hands in his, and looked me dead in the eye. I passed out before I could get your last name. I spent 2 years trying to find you to thank you, and here you are. He bowed his head slightly. Thank you, Donna. You are a hero. Suddenly, someone at the back of the room started clapping, then another. Within seconds, the entire ballroom erupted into a standing ovation. Wealthy executives, socialites, and strangers were on their feet, clapping not for the bride, but for the girl in the simple navy dress. I didn't gloat. I didn't look at Chloe with a smug smile. I didn't have to. The universe had just delivered a masterclass in karma. I hugged Arthur, thanked him for his kind words, and calmly took my seat. For the rest of the night, Chloe was a ghost at her own wedding. Her confidence was gone. The guests didn't want to talk to her about her designer dress or her fancy honeymoon. They all came over to my table to shake my hand. I left the wedding early that night, walking out into the cool evening air with a profound sense of peace. To anyone listening to this, never let anyone make you feel small because of your job, your clothes, or your bank account. Real status isn't bought in a designer boutique. It's earned through the value you bring to the world. Let them laugh. Let them mock. Keep doing your work. Keep staying true to your purpose, because eventually the truth always comes to the light. And when it does, your actions will speak louder than their arrogance ever could.